Okay, everyone, and thank you for attending the webinar. I think I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. So, as Tom says, so you can see the presenters before we get going, because with Bright Talk we don't get to do that. So, I think we'll have an interesting session. I'm going to go back to sharing screen now, so I can just do an intro and then hand off to Tom to discuss today's topic, basically. Okay, so who we are, for those, we've had a lot of people attend these sessions. Tom is a VP Marketing QNext and a 30-year veteran, and really, has great knowledge, and has been spending a lot of time on Zero Trust. And I think you'll find some of his comments with Zero Trust and SharePoint extremely interesting. I'm the founder of the ECA. I'm a digital pioneer, and continually interested in what's going on, basically. And what's going on at the moment is, in many ways, Zero Trust is a very big deal, and it's not surprising because these numbers that I've got up here on screen really tell us that it's nutty in terms of exposure. I mean, in the Q1 of 2020, we saw a 273 increase compared to Q1 2009. So that gives us a sense of what this new normal is doing. Likewise, a couple of months ago, there was a UN SharePoint security breach, which allowed compromised users to bypass the usual verification process within the system. That's not such a good idea, and we'll certainly talk about some of the ways to do that in the session. So Zero Trust, for those that are sort of uncovering it, is a never trust, always verify approach that basically, Gartner, Forrester, pretty much everybody is diving into, mainly because it really it's a good policy, and it reduces risk by bringing in granular access policies. And when it's deployed correctly, it definitely can eliminate the weaknesses of perimeter-based legacy security. Now, some of you might have been here before. We've had about 400 people sign up for this series of Zero Trust webinars sponsored by FileFlex and put on by the Edge Computing Association. So today we'll take a look at FileFlex, which is the first Zero Trust data access platform to allow the remote workforce to access and share data without endangering corporate security, even when they're using on-premises SharePoint. So I'm going to basically stop sharing and hand over to Tom. I'll let you see him again for a while, and there he is again. So Tom, can you take over things and
Sure.
Get into the presentation?
Sure. I didn't know that about. Thanks, Phil. It was a great introduction. I didn't realize that about the UN SharePoint was breached. Yeah. So that almost certainly wouldn't have happened if they'd been using our technology.
I think I did a little bit of research yesterday and I found that, and I thought it is relevant to today, basically.
Yeah. So anyways, we're going to go into this. This is really about external sharing and access of SharePoint. And if you're here today, it's probably because you have an on-premises implementation of SharePoint. It's probably a legacy system. Maybe it's still dependent on, but it probably doesn't fully meet your needs. And that's because your organization has evolved and your needs have changed. So you're wondering if there's any way that you can keep using that legacy SharePoint and meet the needs of your modern organization that you have today. Is there an easy way to do that? So I'm happy to tell you that now you can. And as Phil mentioned before, maybe you've already heard that term Zero Trust. It's kind of the buzzword going around. It's a new approach designed for cybersecurity. I'm going to explain it to you. However, the architecture that's used to accomplish that security uses a microchannel technology to access files and folders at a micro-segmentation granular level. So that I'm going to go into that. I'm going to show it to you. It's that channel technology has many other benefits beyond security. It allows you to determine your sharing permissions at a granular level. It allows you to give full IT control over remote access and sharing. It allows remote access, sharing, streaming, editing and file management of your entire hybrid IT infrastructure, of your on-premises or your cloud-hosted storage. It allows you to create virtual data rooms, and it adds that capability to your Office 365 and your SharePoint. So I'm going to give you an overview to what the Zero Trust security paradigm is. And then we're going to look at the architecture so that you can understand how it can revolutionize your on-premises implementation of SharePoint. And then I'm hoping to give you a little demo. Hopefully the technology doesn't fail us and we're all okay. And our solution, FileFlex, was recently recognized by Red Herring and awarded as a Global 100 Technology Innovation. So let me go back here now, if I can get the technology, and share my screen. And I'm going to share that screen. Okay. You can see that. Can you see that, Phil?
Yeah. Okay. I'm seeing your family shot just flash by, but that's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
I have a beautiful family. Okay.
It's a good family shot. So that's
okay. You may see a few glitches like that. Okay, so let's talk about SharePoint. So SharePoint was originally launched in the 1990s, late 90s, as an intranet, and it was always hosted on premises at that time. This was before the rise of mobile devices, before the rise of the distributed workforce. Workers worked in an office. They were plugged into a network. Mobile devices didn't yet exist. Maybe you had a BlackBerry. I had a BlackBerry back in the late 90s. VPNs were around, but they were generally only for senior management. And today, users expect to work from anywhere, whether they're home, a restaurant, traveling. And your organization now hires workers that can be located anywhere in the world. Those workers don't connect over the network; they connect over the internet. You need to give them the tools to enable that modern work ethos. It includes contractors and gig-based freelancers, pretty much in our modern workforce. And SharePoint is one of the most popular document management platforms used in the world. It's used by over 104,000 organizations globally, and over 5,000 of those organizations have over $1 billion in revenue. So a lot of the biggest companies in the world are using it. I think that probably everybody on the audience today is using it. Originally designed as that intranet and content management system for internal purposes, hosted on premises. Now it's available in a cloud-based platform. So both of them, both the on-premises and the cloud-based implementations, have their pain points. Since it was originally designed for internal use, that on-premises implementation, sharing with external parties has been a pain. It was never designed for that. And sooner or later, you're going to have to share a document stored on there with your clients, your vendors, and your contractors. And that's not easy to do within SharePoint. You've got to use other tools. And I'll show you that in a minute. The alternative to that is to go to the cloud-hosted version that's hosted by Microsoft. It offers an ease of deployment, remote access from any device, and sharing with external parties. The problem is that it's expensive, and it's still a separate silo. So when you're remote, you can access the SharePoint, but none of your other storage on your corporate network. So if you want to add documents to your SharePoint library when you're remote, and you're not on your network file server, for example, you either have to be in the office and plugged into the internet to your network, or you have to access your network via VPN. So internet access of your network drives and file management between them and your SharePoint is not possible because they're unintegrated separate silos, even for the cloud-hosted version. So how are we addressing those problems today? Option number one is you open up your SharePoint intranet by adding external parties as users. So as soon as you make them users, they have access to the whole site. That means that they have access to not just the document libraries, but the task lists, issue logs, the calendar, etc. And they basically end up with the same permissions as your own members, like regular employees. And yes, I know your administrator can designate certain folders in the site for external sharing, and allow access only to those. For external parties, I should say, and allow access to those. But then you're creating an administrative nightmare with micromanagement, individual security permissions, and maintenance for every single user. The option number 2 is an alternative. Your administrator can create 2 different SharePoint sites, one for internal project teams, and the second, a very simple site, maybe just of document libraries for external users. But now you have to maintain 2 sites, and if someone in your organization needs to share with a new contact, you still have to set them up as a user to that other second site. And since both of those are pretty cumbersome and nobody wants to do that, option number 3 is to instead migrate everything to from your on-premises SharePoint over to the cloud-hosted version that's hosted by Microsoft. Besides the fact that that really is an enormous job, you're moving your company confidential files that are to a server that's outside your firewall that's hosted by a third party. And so from a privacy perspective, it's really a non-starter. And it's also expensive. And the cloud-hosted version, if you're on there, it is a separate silo of information. And as far as I know, there's no solution to that today. Maybe somebody on the webinar knows of one, but I don't know of one. So now that we've gone through the SharePoint introduction and kind of identified the pain that people are going through, let's move on to Zero Trust. And what I'm going to do is give you a very short primer onto it. It's an approach to securing an organization. Today, we use perimeter-based defenses that are threat-centric, such as antiviruses and firewalls and VPNs and stuff like that. That's being replaced by an approach that's being spearheaded by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's called Zero Trust. And Zero Trust is exactly what that name implies. It's an approach that always authenticates and always verifies every transaction all the time with a never trust, always verify model. In this model, no one's entrusted, even if you're behind the firewall. Okay, so you think of Zero Trust like a bank teller. If you go into the bank, you walk up to the bank teller. The bank teller, first he verifies who you are, and then checks on his computer screen to see whether or not you have enough money to withdraw from your account and whether you're allowed to do it. And then if you're allowed and if you are who you are, then he goes to the bank, the vault, and gets the money and brings it to you. You're not allowed to go into the vault and get it yourself. But today we're allowed to go into the vault and get any information we want ourselves, right? There's no bank teller to verify us. There's no bank teller to see if it's allowed. There's no bank teller to go get it for us. And the goal of that's what Zero Trust does. It says, so let's put something in there to verify everything all the time. And the goal is to eliminate unauthorized access to data and services to make enforcement as granular as possible. It does that by using microchannel access to a microchannel segmentation of storage. And I'm going to explain that in a slide, just a couple slides from now, so you understand what that means. And that's what really lights up SharePoint, okay? So then you ask yourself, is this just a marketing presentation from slides from vendors, or is it something that real companies are asking about and adopting? And yes, there's a lot of noise about Zero Trust. It's a buzzword out there, but at the same time, it is a real thing. It kind of and before COVID, organization has really taken off since COVID, of course, but organizations kicked off their journey by using best practices like single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. But now 66% of North American companies are deploying Zero Trust projects, either have deployed or are deploying them. And we've seen a 275% increase year over year in the number of companies that are either have deployed or are deploying right now. So what is it? We've talked about what it is, but let me go into it a little bit more here so you can understand it. It's based on 4 pillars. The first is that Zero Trust is trust-centric. It kind of goes with the name, doesn't it? As you've already seen, traditional defenses focus on security perimeter against threats. So right now I'm kind of talking about this from a security point of view, but you're going to see how it applies to SharePoint in just a second, so hang on here. But I think you need to understand this. And the problem is that organizations today have data that's outside that perimeter. They're on cloud-hosted platforms of third parties, and adversaries are constantly trying to find exploits to your VPN and your operating system. They're constantly trying to trick your users into giving up credentials in phishing attacks, and they're trying to get behind the firewall, move laterally, and install ransomware and other big problems on your network, okay? Zero Trust as opposed to granting or restricting access to the network, is focused on granting or restricting access to data. It's very data-centric. It's a trust-centric approach versus a threat-centric one, okay? And it's because they can access data, they can access SharePoint. I'm going to get into that in a minute. The second is transaction-based, okay? So your traditional defenses today allow access to the entire network. They're not bound by time constraints, where Zero Trust, on the other hand, verifies every user, every device, every app, or every transaction. Again, simply because you're on the network behind the firewall doesn't mean you're not an adversary. So a Zero Trust assumes that everyone is a possible adversary, and therefore it's transaction-centric. It's dynamic and granular. Today, our defenses are pretty broad-based and static. Large groups of people essentially have the same rights, which essentially remains unchanged. But Zero Trust, on the other hand, uses granular-based policies constructed on who the user is, what device they're using, what content they're accessing, and they change and adapt on a transaction-by-transaction basis. So, for example, you could say, this user can access the information, but they're not allowed to share it. The other user, they're allowed to access the information and share it, but it has to only be shared in view-only mode. Whereas this other person is an author, and so they can access and share and edit and download any information that they want. All the same information, by the way, the same file. So it's not static, it's dynamic, it's granular, even to the user, file, and device level. And finally, it's continually monitored because with Zero Trust, we authorize and enable every transaction by every user. We can record and log those activities, and that can really aid in any kind of incident management that you're going through, or and investigations, and it can be integrated into your SIM software. So, so now we've looked at what Zero Trust is, and if you stay with me so far, you've got that good high-level understanding of what it is and why you need it from a security standpoint. But you're probably asking how that applies to your on-premises implementation of SharePoint. And that's what I want to show you here now. It's the how that Zero Trust is achieved that applies to SharePoint. So the application benefits of SharePoint are realized because of the mechanisms of the technology that enables Zero Trust, okay? And it comes from the technology of the architecture, and that's what this architecture diagram is going to show you. So on the right here, you've got storage repositories that are either on-premises or they're cloud-hosted. And on the left, you got the people who need to remotely access that storage, okay? So they're connected to the server, and that server takes a user request, remotely access, and shares something on the right, and it uses encrypted microchannel to fulfill that request. Let me see here. There we go. So you see these little lines there. These are encrypted microchannels. Think of that server like a switchboard operator, okay? So he's connecting the person, wherever they are in the world, over the internet to their data, to their files, okay? That's what that policy server does, is switchboard operator. It does it over what's we call a microchannel. So think of a VPN like a big highway, where a microchannel is like a driveway or a laneway directly to a house, okay? It goes directly to one thing and one thing only. The microchannel goes to a connector agent, okay? And so think of the connector agent like your bank teller. The connector agent is behind the firewall. It takes your requests and acts like an intermediary to go and get that information and bring it to you. If your SharePoint is on premises, it's also behind that firewall on one of your company servers. The connector agent, who's also behind the firewall, goes into that SharePoint server, gets the information, brings it to you, and anyone you tell it to. So if you say, give that information to Phil, I'm going to share it with Phil, it'll go and give it to him, okay? And it puts Phil through the same processes of verification, authorization, as an intermediary. Phil's not allowed to go get it himself. You're not allowed to go get it yourself. You have to go through the bank teller, okay? And so that's kind of the architecture. It's that microchannel architecture that enables on-premises access and sharing and access of on-premises SharePoint, okay? This is very high level. I could really dive into this. This could be an hour presentation, just this architecture diagram, but I wanted you to understand it at a high level to understand how it works. So that's going to bring us to our product, FileFlex Enterprise, because that's the architecture of our product, by the way, and it brings fully audited, IT-controlled, zero trust access It's a zero trust platform that uses microchannel access to hybrid IT. It supports your entire hybrid IT infrastructure of all your on-premises storage, all your SharePoint, and all your infrastructure storage. It's built on that zero trust data access platform that employs microchannel access to micro-segmented storage. It brings IT control, incredible IT control over file sharing, allows you for creation of virtual data rooms if you want. It's a side benefit, and it's a software-only solution that runs on a desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. You run it on your own server from a VM. Okay, so it also brings incredible IT control and data governance over your remote access and file sharing. It integrates into your existing tools that you already have, like single sign-on, your multi-factor authentication, your device authentication, your Active Directory, your LDAP, and it provides all the tools for user management. That provides all the tools for storage management. For example, you can assign storage to a user on a device level, on a drive level, folder level, and even a file level. Okay, you can drill right down to any level of granularity to it. It has very strong sharing permissions that are controlled by IT, where IT can control sharing permissions on a device level, a drive level, folder level, even a file level. For example, IT can, maybe you're HIPAA, you need HIPAA compliance, or maybe you're GDPR compliance. And so IT can say, okay, this is a folder here, it's got confidential files, or personal health information, or PII information, and you can access it, but you can't share it. You can't go outside the company. Or you can say, you can share it, but it can only be in view-only mode. So nobody can download it. Or, maybe it's not confidential, nothing's wrong with it, so they can allow downloading or editing. Or if they allow uploading for the creation of virtual data rooms, they can allow uploading to a folder. I'm going to try and show you that. And then IT can decide who can share outside the company, who can add their own storage options. They can access logged activities and export that activity log into their SIM software for investigations and for doing what's going on with their data. Great for governance, okay? The beauty of building these micro-channel access to storage with zero trust is now you can access anything in the company, not just your cloud storage. You can access all your public clouds and your enterprise-grade clouds. You can access your infrastructure clouds like Azure or Amazon or Google Cloud. You can access your company servers, any company server, anywhere, any office, any location in the world, all your server-attached storage that's on those servers. You can access any private clouds you've already got. You can access your network-attached storage. You can access every single PC. You can access your SharePoint. And so even if you host that SharePoint on premises, it's like another server, you can access and share that storage over the internet without the need for VPN, even to external parties, okay? Without adding them as users, without migrating your SharePoint over to the cloud-hosted version. Okay? So that is the technology that powers that and makes that possible. So having said that, I'm going to try and give you a little demo. Hopefully my technology all works here. And I'm going to okay, now I'm going to bring that over, make it full screen. And what I've done here is I've launched FileFlex, in our web client. I do that so that you can see it better. And I've connected it here to our corporate storage. It's on it. There's a NAS. I don't have anything on there. It's just empty. It's really for demo purposes. But it's on the corporate network. Okay. And I'm accessing this remotely over the internet. I've also connected it to some AWS storage. And this storage, again, is for demo uses. I have put a folder in there that I use actually for sharing stuff. But these are all just demo files I put on there. And then I put on also as well some demo files onto our Google storage. Okay, and I can access my PC. And, I can access anything on my PC. And I can access my SharePoint. So here's my SharePoint. And this is our live SharePoint for our own company. And here it is. You can change your view. You can sort it by, right now it's by folders. This is just a document library that we use. Sort it by name. I can sort it by type. They're all folders, so it doesn't matter here. I can sort it by when things were last modified. I can see who things have been shared with. So let's say I'll do some file management here right quickly. I can open a menu. I can create a new folder. Let's create it and call it Bright. Okay, I'm not on SharePoint right now. I'm on FileFlex. I just created a folder. It's in my SharePoint. I did it remotely, and let's say there's something here in the corporate storage. There's several ways I could. Let me go back here to the here. Several ways that I could add things to that folder. I could open it up, and I could go into my file manager. And let's see, I could go into my documents. And there's a sales sheet there. I just drag it over, and then I could add it directly from my PC. I don't have to be on the network to do this. Okay, I don't have to be connected to the server. So just downloaded the sales sheet. You can see now it's in my SharePoint. Or I could just go into a repository. Let's go into the server here, and I could just go and copy it. Okay, go back to the SharePoint, go into the folder, and I can. What's what I got to do here? Go here and go paste. Okay, so I just moved it over. I got two things in there. I could do that from anything. I could do it from the cloud, hosted storage as well. It's totally integrated to your, these are all big files. Let's see here if I have it in this small. That's just a little logo over there. So I could take that logo and I could copy it, go back to the SharePoint, go to the folder and paste it, just like I did before. Okay. Now let's say I want to share this. So I have this sales sheet. I want to share it now with somebody external. There's several ways I could do it. I could just highlight it and then click share here, or I could go to the shortcut menu here. I'm already sharing it with somebody, it looks like. So I could go here and say share. Oh, I'm already sharing with you, Phil. I must have done that in my practice. So let's share it with, let's see here, I'll just click here. There's a fake account I have. I'll share it with myself. So my account, I could put a note in here. And I could set the expiry date, and I'll have it expire, let's say, tomorrow. And I can set the permissions here, and I can say right now it defaults to view only, but I could say you can make a hard copy if you want, but you can't download it, or you can make full downloading, or you can even edit it if you want. Okay, whatever I want. So let's say I can say no, you can't. You can only view only, Tom, and I share it. Okay, hit share. Now I've shared it with Thomas Gardenhire. If I want to change those permissions going forward, I can just simply go in to this. Now I can see everybody I'm sharing it with. I can see Phil, I allowed him download. I can change that and say, no, Phil, you're not allowed to download anymore. And oops, I just turned it off. If I turn off preview, it stops the sharing altogether. But I'm going to say you can preview. Okay, and then for me, I'm going to say I can download. I can do it anytime I want to. As soon as I do it, it's instantly changed. Okay, so that's a very fast demo of SharePoint. Let me go back in here. Oops, go up. And I can see there are some folders in here that I really don't want. That shouldn't be there. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to delete the whole folder. Okay, it's deleted. It's gone. That folder's gone now. I can delete the BrightTalk folder. By the way, let me show you some access. So let's go in here. Let's say we got a video we want to play. I'm going to try this. Hopefully it works. Go over our BrightTalk, and I can stream a video right from SharePoint. Hopefully I can stream a video. Sorry, can't do it. It's because we're doing everything at the same time. But I can look at things. So I can go in here and let's see, I want to look at this brochure that we created for Japan. Okay, that brings up the brochure. Okay, what else can I show you here quickly? And I can share those that I've already shared them with our team in our Tokyo office. All has them. I've shared it with them. I can go into the white papers, case studies, whatever's on there. you can stream, you can look at, you can view it, you can share it, you can do file management to it. I can rename it, I can delete it, I can move it from other repositories. You don't have separate silos. It's all integrated together with everything else in the company. Very, very easy to use. So with that, there's a quick demo. I was going to show it to you from my phone, but I was having bandwidth problems, so I'm not going to do the phone, where I was going to cast my phone onto the screen here. So I'm going to stop it there, and let's go back to this. And the last screen is, I'm going to say that, if you want to learn more, or you want a free trial, then we'll perfectly just leave us a note in the chat, in the question box, or you can send me an email at tomw@qnext.com. I'm going to send everybody who's registered a little email and offer them the free trial as well. And with that, Phil,
thank you very much, Tom. It was
stop the sharing here. I think it stopped.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I think for the SharePoint community, which I suspect most of the people that have attended are, some interesting elements there to consider. So everyone, thank you for coming, and look forward to seeing you at the next TCA webinar. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.